Welcome back to Forgotten Hollywood. Roman Holiday is not your average rom-com. It tells the story of a princess longing for adventure and the handsome commoner who shows her the town. Okay, so it sounds like your average rom-com worthy of Hallmark, but this one has several differences. Released in 1953, Roman Holiday stars Audrey Hepburn and Gregory Peck. The story follows Princess Anne, the heir to the throne of an unnamed nation. Her stifled and strict schedule kind of gets to her, and she decides to break out and spend a day seeing Rome. However, she happened to sneak out after her doctor gave her a sedative, so she falls asleep almost immediately and is mistaken for a drunk by a well-meaning reporter who ends up taking her back to his apartment so she can sleep it off. It's this reporter who ends up showing her around Rome later in the movie. So the character of Princess Anne is interesting because she is both mature and childish. She decides to go on a whim. She's not really thinking about the consequences of her actions. She's just thinking that she wants to try this once, just once. She wants to be an average person and get to do average things. Very common trope when it comes to stories about royalty. Some of the things that she tries include smoking her first cigarette, driving a Vespa, and attending a dance. Opposite of Anne is Joe Bradley, a reporter who is just tired of being in Europe, and he wants to go home to America. And he doesn't know who she is the night that he picks her up, but he finds out the next day.
If I were you, I would try some other line of business, like mattress testing.
Is this the princess?
Yes, Mr. Radley, that is the princess.
And so he decides to take advantage of this, and he's going to document her day of freedom as a big story that will get him his ticket back home. He makes a bet with his boss. If he can get this big story about Princess Anne, then he will get a cash bonus, and he will use that cash bonus to go home. What happens in this movie, and I will give spoilers here, so fair warning, is after her 24 hours of fun, Anne goes back. She's had her time to pretend she's a normal person, and then she goes back to her responsibility. She goes back to her strict schedule. She goes back to her handlers. And Joe, realizing that his story could actually hurt Anne and potentially her country, he decides he doesn't want to write it. He cares about Anne. He really likes her. He doesn't want to hurt her, so he tells his boss, you know what, forget it, I don't actually have a story.
You believe every two-bit rumor that comes your way?
Yeah, and a lot of other rumors about a shindig on a barge down by the river, and the arrest of 8 Secret Servicemen from a country which shall be nameless. And then comes the news of the lady's miraculous recovery. It all adds up. And don't think by playing hard to get you to raise the price of that story. A deal's a deal. Now, come on. Where is that story?
I have no story.
So the two of them go back to their lives. They go back to their personal responsibilities. They go back to things that they don't really like about their lives, but they do it anyway. For Joe, it's his job. For Anne, it's her schedule. But they go back because they understand that they have duties, they have responsibilities, and they can't just ignore them.
Which of the cities visited did Your Highness enjoy the most?
Each in its own way was unforgettable. It would be difficult to... Rome. By all means, Rome. I will cherish my visit here in memory as long as I live.
I've watched a few reaction channels with this movie, and one thing I've noticed is that people really, really wish that the ending was different. They want Joe to confess his love, marry the princess, and go live in the palace. Or they want Anne to come out, run out to her love and confess her feelings, leave everything behind to be with Joe. Or they want them to both abandon their lives and just live in Rome free as a bird. Yeah, here's why that doesn't actually work. Keep in mind, this movie was made in 1953. That's only 17 years after a very significant world event that people would still remember and a lot of people were still bitter about. I'm talking about the abdication crisis of 1936. Edward VIII, real royal, falls in love with an American, gives up his throne, walks away from everything to be with this American. And the British people never forgave him. Granted, they were also upset about him being on friendly terms with a certain Austrian painter with delusions of grandeur, but they didn't forgive him. And so if the movie ended with a European princess abandoning her throne to go marry an American, some people would take issue with that. Maybe not the American audiences. Maybe they would be okay with it. But in Europe, might hit some sore spots. Also, consider that Anne, I believe, was the only child of her parents. She was the crown princess. She was the heir to the throne. For her to take off in any of the scenarios where she gives up her throne, who's next in line? Do they even have someone next in line? That could throw the entire country in a crisis. That could cause a civil war. I know it's a fictional country, but I'm just saying, there's reasons they don't give these endings to movies. Or to certain movies, I should say. And also, even if Joe did leave his job and be with her in the castle, in the royal family, he really wasn't suited for that. That wasn't his thing either. There really wasn't a scenario where the two could be together and not cause an international incident. There's a reason that they did the movie the way they did. And it works. It is a beautiful ending. It's cinematically brilliant. The acting is great. You can feel the emotions and the chemistry. It's a wonderful scene. And no, it doesn't have the characters riding off in the sunset together. But it's realistic. And it upholds the ideals of duty and honor. And the idea that sometimes loving someone means letting them go. Thanks for watching. What's your favorite romantic movie? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the bell for notifications, and I will catch up with you next time.